Thank you for being with us today on this episode of Better Tech. At Better Tech, Better Tech is a podcast series where we try to bring in leaders like yourself and share knowledge with our audience on different topics. So I believe today's topic is around customer experience. We'll try to keep it short, interactive, and useful. So it will be helpful if you can give us a little bit of introduction about yourself, and we'll take stuff from there.
Thank you, Ajay. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be talking about customer experience and digital transformation today. So I am Gabriele Masili, go by G. I'm the Vice President and the Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft for our organization that is called Customer Experience and Success. Basically, we take care of the customer experience across all the phases of the customer journey, specifically all the support phases, all what we call enterprise services, and customer success, which are the post-sales engagements. And I've been at Microsoft for years now. My career brings me back to Amazon, leading support organization and customer experience teams. And earlier than that, I've been in the support outsourcing industry for a while, but I'm a software engineer by trade, actually. So I really like when we can find the intersection between technology and people, and we can use technology actually to make the life of people better.
Wonderful. I'll have to raise my hand as well because I'm a software engineer as well. So I guess it could, but moved into more like technology selling and strategy. So good to know another software engineer on that side of the camera. And let's talk about customer experience. So before we start, what do you really feel? What is the customer experience for some of our audience? Let's define. Customer experience means different things to different people. What is really a customer experience?
Well, the way I would look at customer experience is anything you can create for the customers to experience while interacting with your company. So as an example, all the touch points on a digital journey. So how the customer is self-serving, how the customer is consulting account information, how the customer is ordering services or goods, and so on and so forth. Those are all elements of the customer experience. The customer experience itself is embracing all the touch points of the customer and making sure that those touch points ideally are satisfactory for the customer and delighting them and inviting them to come back again and do more business with you.
So right from the get-go, when they get to know about your product, maybe through some marketing or some other channels, all the way to the point of purchase, and then purchasing your product, and then getting a support around that product, every time that that they have a touch point with you, that's essentially builds up a customer experience for them. Is this a correct statement?
Yes, indeed. It even goes beyond that in certain situations. Think about the social media presence that your company may have. There may not be a touch point per se, but still that belongs to the realm of customer experience because it helps to shape the perception of your company, how the brand is understood, what the customer expects from you is part of your public image, which again shapes the customer experience.
Sure. So that makes kind of customer service a part of customer experience, isn't it?
Indeed. Customer service is a very important part of customer experience because it's like the safety net. When something goes wrong, customer service is there to protect the customer from falling and helping them to recover that situation and get back into whatever they were doing before. So it's a very critical component of the customer experience, if you want, but it's just one of many steps of the customer experience itself. Sure. I think it's interesting, if I may, Ajay, it's also interesting for some customer experience will maybe seen as a product. That's the way we look at it as an example. We see customer experience not only as a set of phases in the customer journey, but we treat it as a product. So we define roadmaps for the customer experience. We define releases of features that we want to deploy into the customer experience. We do user analysis. We do user acceptance after, and so on and so forth. So all the steps that you will see on a traditional product development cycle can be very well applied to customer experience if you want to treat it with that level of respect.
This is very interesting. Let's come to that in a bit because I would like to know more about it. But I'm just trying to set us up to understand what is customer experience, and then we'll go on how to really define it, how to really deliver it, and what should be the KPIs. But let's establish the importance of it. Why you feel? I mean, the customer experience is important. How it changes the companies. I mean, how it helps in companies increasing their revenues or customer or reducing customer churn. Why it's important for the company in any way, and what do you feel are the key elements of creating great customer experience?
It's fundamental. I mean, CX has to be at the center of any design if you want the customers to be satisfied and therefore to be loyal to you and your brand, your products. So that's why it's so important. And in turn, it drives revenue, it drives consumption, it drives retention, because it helps the customer having a good feeling whenever they interact with your products and services. The way we look at it, as an example, from a support angle. So if we look at it from a support angle, we created what we call the customer experience framework to help everybody in the tens of thousands of people that works in our support organizations to appreciate how to work with the customer, creating those experiences. Our customer experience framework at Microsoft, as an example, has what we call three main experiences. The first one is what we call empowerment, which means from a customer standpoint, as a customer, I want you, Microsoft, to let me do things at my pace, at my convenience, and let me help myself so that I don't have to even engage with you guys and I can solve my problem. So that's the empower element of the experience. Then we have a second motion that is help me. There will always be circumstances as a customer when I want you, Microsoft, to actually bring your expertise and help me directly rather than me trying to figure it out myself. And the third step is what we call advise me, which means as a customer, I want you, Microsoft, to be able to guide me to get the best out of the product and services I'm already using, I already purchased, and I want you to help me to get the maximum out of my investment. And those three motions, so empower me, help me, and advise me, go together with two foundational motions. One is enable our people, because without an excellent employee experience, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to create a good customer experience. And underlying all of that, there is our attention to diversity and inclusion, because the different perspectives that come from our very diverse workforce helps to create the experience that matches our customer base, because we're fortunate enough to have customers across the globe.
Okay, so I think this is a very important stuff that you've talked about, that there are three phases like empower, help, and advice. I mean, so I understand that this could be at a strategy philosophical level. You can define it like that, but help us understand that at a large company like Microsoft, where there's a lot of there are a lot of products, there are a lot of customers, and maybe there are a lot of people who are part of delivering customer experience. How you make sure that everyone delivers it and everyone understands it, and your customers always get the best experience. You just alluded to the fact that you think of customer experience as a product. Now, I guess if you can help us connect it, that how you actually building on this philosophical terms like empower, help, advise, how you really deliver these three things to your customers, how you ensure uniformity across the entire Microsoft organization, and how you really build your customer experience. That in something that you have told us initially, that we can treat customer experience as a product. So if you can just help us understand that part.
Absolutely. So when it comes to the customer experience framework, it's not just theory. The way we build it is, there is a communication motion. So when you walk in our offices, you will see posters talking about that. So it's very well in front of everybody all the time. But also there are motions that are related to your goals, as an example. If you work in an organization that has customer touch points, you will have your annual goals that are mapped to those three main experiences, depending which part of the organization you are. As an example, if you are part of the teams that builds service solutions, you will have goals around the empower me portion of that experience. If you're part of the teams that are doing chat and email assistance to customers, you will be part of the help me set of goals of that experience, and so on and so forth. So we make it real, setting objectives that are specific to the different teams. And also, when we look at it from if we step back and we look at it from a product angle, Then what we do is we identify what are the customer journeys that we want to optimize, and we cycle through those. So as an example, one journey that we recently updated was the one for our gamers in the Xbox space to refund wrong purchases. And we look at all the experience of the customers we're having, the millions of gamers that go through that process, identified what are the pain points, and then from there redesign the journey to be an ideal journey so that the customers could actually get the best in the fastest possible way. And in this specific case, it turned out that what we defined as the best experience was to inject artificial intelligence into that journey and have one of our virtual agents help customers to self-serve and get refunds autonomously. And so that shortened the response time, make the life of the customer easier in this specific example.
Okay, no, that's great. So I would like to ask that if you can, take a particular product or something and help us break down how what is empowerment, how we build into that. You have just alluded to that. What is then help? What is then advice? And how you would measure the KPIs against every single step, so that if you have done this, it means you have really empowered the customer. If you have done this, you have really helped them. So do you track KPIs like that? Is there some program like that?
Oh, absolutely. We measure, we measure everything basically. So we have more, we call it telemetry, are the numbers that are coming from our systems and services. And we have more data sometimes than what we can actually process and use. But as an example, in the experience, we measure what we call digital resolution rate, which is we ask the customer at the end of a digital transaction, we ask the customer, did I solve your problem? If the customer says yes, we count that as a positive. So if I just look at the last 12 months as an example, we improved by 10 percentage points our digital resolution rate. Right now, we are over 50% on our main virtual agents. So it means that we can get full digital resolution through artificial intelligence-driven conversations in over half of the cases. And the remaining half is not that they are useless. What happens is that the virtual agent will provide some information and eventually recognize that there is an opportunity to engage a human expert. So the virtual agent will propose that as an example. We say things like, I see that I cannot help you that much with this topic. Would you like me to put you in touch with an expert? And then facilitate the conversation, handing over all the context so the customer never have to repeat themselves while they engage now with a human expert. So those are just some of the examples. And we measure across all the dimensions, we measure the performance of these, what we call digital assets in this case.
Sure. So I picked a couple of words from what you were saying. One is the virtual agents, the other one is AI and machine learning, and the third one that I have in my mind is around omnichannel. So let's dissect these three. So first, I would like to ask that how virtual agents have evolved over time. And we have seen funny videos over internet where customers interacting with virtual agents, they really get frustrated. But at the same time, virtual agents are available all the time. They have their own benefits. So I would like to understand that how, in your opinion, have virtual agents have evolved over time? And are they already there where you feel that most of the time, or maybe 99% of the time, they manage to solve the problem or get the customer in the right direction without creating frustration? We all get annoyed from IVRs and whatnot in the past, and now it's a turn of the virtual agent. So help us understand that how the virtual agents are evolving, and at Microsoft, where do you see them in terms of their evolution, in terms of their maturity, where you are with them?
They are transforming constantly. So the good news is that if I compare, I joined Microsoft 4 years ago, if I compare our virtual agent journey over the last 4 years to where we started and where we are today, is absolutely night and day. Mm-hmm. So quite frankly, when we launched the virtual agent, we had single-digit resolution rates. So it means that, one customer out of 10 was getting satisfaction and the other 9 were not getting good results. Now, to be fair, we told the customer so. We knew the virtual agent that we had at that time was not good enough. And the first message the virtual agent will say was, I'm the virtual agent, I'm still in training. If you want to try with me, go ahead. Otherwise, click here and I'm going to put you in touch with somebody. That's a very important element. So two important things there. One, in my opinion, virtual agents should be very upfront in stating that they are virtual. They are not humans. They should not try to pretend. I've seen a number of those trying to pretend to be human, with creating frustration and dissatisfaction in the customers. So it has to be upfront. And the second, it has to know their limitations. So in this case, we were upfront. We were telling the customer, if you want to help us to train, go on. We found an overwhelmingly positive response, actually. Over 76% of customers were interacting with the virtual agent with the intent to help, rather than simply clicking on connect to somebody. And that's the other element. Never make the virtual agent an obstacle, a blocker to contact your support organization, because that obviously generates frustration. I mean, if you're putting in front of the customer a wall, how would you expect the customer to react to that? So what we do is, as I mentioned earlier, over 50% of conversations can be brought to resolution by the virtual agent alone. But the one that cannot, we always handle the context to the human expert. And the virtual agent facilitates that. So you're not losing your time. The virtual agent will ask you who you are, what is your problem, what I can do for you, and those kind of things. So all that data collection is still valuable use of the customer time. And then we hand over that information. And the customer can ask themselves as well. I mean, at any point in the conversation, they can say, I want to chat with somebody. And we facilitate that handover.
So what we are getting over here is that essentially the virtual agent has come a long way from the initial ones, and they are acting now in a very kind of mature way or improved way, and many customers are getting satisfied by just working with them. Would you like to throw in a number of what percentage of your requests are typically just handled and served by virtual agent versus the requests that have really gone on to humans?
So when it comes to the request that virtual agent can actually solve digitally is 52% at the moment. But when it comes to the proportion of overall contacts, if I look at last 12 months, because we just ended our fiscal year, we are doing 12 times more digital transactions than human-assisted transactions. So the customers are very heavily preferring to engage with digital assisted transactions rather to engage with our experts. And it's clear because it's more convenient. You can help yourself, you can use your pace. So there are a lot of reasons why the customers do so. If I look at the last 12 months, again, our total digital ecosystem, if you want, delivered 4.2 billion interactions with customers. And that is not only virtual agents, it's also things like web articles, infographics, multimedia, videos, or things that customers can learn and consume, or things like our diagnostics toolkits. So the customers can use diagnostics to understand what we are a technical company. So clearly, a lot of times we have to deal with technical problems rather than pure customer care problems. So we use diagnostics that the customers can use to troubleshoot and identify their problems and provide solutions to them. So that is the entire digital ecosystem.
So out of those 4.2 billion digital interaction, how many or what percentage you would rate successful or near successful?
If I look at the overall numbers, well, there are some for which we don't have the data. So as an example, web articles, we ask the customer at the end of the web article, was this helpful to you? But the response rate for those kind of questions is very, very low because the customers, when they're reading, they don't
I again raise my hand and I will respond to that.
There you are. So for a good part of our volume of transactions, we simply don't have data to understand that. For the one that we do measure, we are seeing constantly resolution rates that are north of 35%, which is very good, I have to say, considering the benchmark that I see around.
No, that's not bad. So, okay, and now all these interactions must be generating tons of data, and you also mentioned that. So how AI and machine learning has come into play in helping you dissect that data, train your virtual agents better, or reduce your overall time to support as well as overall customer experience? Has it really helped? And if yes, to what magnitude and which parts it has helped the most?
Absolutely. I mean, we use artificial intelligence and machine learning across our entire support ecosystem. It's not only directly in front of customers, like in the virtual agent example, it's also in front of our support professionals. So as an example, we use contextual documentation. So when I'm a support professional and I'm doing a chat with a customer, as an example, the system will identify what we are talking about and suggest solutions on a side pane, so that as a support professional, I have an immediate reference on what are the technical articles that I could use, I could refer. It is just one click away to send those to the customers or to use them to help me troubleshoot. Troubleshooter is another example. I was mentioning those a minute ago. So we use machine learning to identify problem behaviors in our systems, and we use the troubleshooters to decode those problem behaviors and recommend solutions. Now, one interesting element is that what we found is anytime we can move from suggesting a solution to actually performing an action on behalf of the customer, we see a 10 percentage points increase on problem resolution for that specific dialogue. That is very relevant. So anytime we can move from, if you want to change your delivery address, go to your account and change the delivery address, here is the link, to I see you want to change your delivery address. Can you give me your new address, please? I'll do it for you. So when we do those transitions, we see an incredible jump, a step change, I mean, in terms of the performance of the digital assets, because the customers love the convenience of the system doing things on their behalf.
No, that I think that this should be correct. So okay, we talked about the role of AI, machine learning, virtual agents. I mean, how all this digital transformation, omni-channel experience, all this has come into play when it and how it has really transformed customer experience in your eyes.
I mean, clearly we live in a very specific point in time. I mean, the last year and a half with the global pandemic we are all within has been incredibly harsh for a lot of businesses. On one side, for a lot of them also push digital transformation to a pace that we have never seen before. I mean, I've seen people mentioning the last 2 years where like a normal 5 or 10 years of acceleration compressed in 1 year and a half. So the reality is that we see more and more people using digital transformation as the way to survive, to have their business survive and thrive through these difficult times. That's only one aspect of it. I think the core aspect is to use digital transformation to enhance the human experience on both sides, from a customer standpoint, from an employee standpoint. When you can use artificial intelligence, to go back to our conversation a minute ago, if we use artificial intelligence to augment human capabilities, that is where we see the best customer experience materializing.
Okay. So, I mean, it's one thing building a customer experience at an organization or enterprise like Microsoft, where you have tons of data, you have technology and people. How would you treat it, or probably do it differently at a startup or at a small, medium business? I mean, what is the difference? I mean, everyone needs a great customer experience, but they may not have the firepower. Understandably, the large enterprise has its own challenges, but how would you feel that startups should go about building their customer experience, why it's important, and how they can really, what kind of effort they should allocate to building this correctly?
Yeah, this is a great question. So when it comes to, first of all, you don't have to build everything from scratch. That's a good news. There is plenty of companies out there that have the consulting capabilities to guide startups or small and medium companies through that process. And there are products and services off the shelf these days that offer those things. The virtual agent I was talking about, 4 years ago, we were working on an alpha internal pilot, and we were building capabilities as we go. 2 years ago, we launched on the market as the Power Virtual Agent, and now it has all the features that we helped build, but it's available for everybody to use, and it's very easy self-service. It's one of the what we call low-code, no-code solutions. So actually, you don't even need software engineers to actually use it. So there is a lot available in the market for.
I just missed that. Which one is that tool that you just mentioned?
Oh, the Power Virtual Agent.
The Power Virtual Agent. Okay.
It's part of our Power Platform offering. And it's exactly the same we use internally. And we have, as a support organization, we help build it. So we know it does what it needs to do, even for an organization as big as ours, with billions of customer interactions every year. But I think there are a couple of things that are universally applicable. Start scrappy. That's the first thing. So it doesn't require gigantic efforts to start designing the customer experience and change it in a better way. So start small, start scrappy, do experiment, and those experiments, the pilots, what we call them, are so vital. So measure the results of those pilots. Ideally, do an A/B testing. Try one thing and try a different thing with a different group of customers, and then measure them. If you have the systems that can do in parallel, half customers and half of the other customers, perfect. If you don't have system can do that, launch one treatment one week, and the week after try a different treatment, and then compare and contrast. And then what works, double down on it, accelerate that. What doesn't work, try again, maybe with a little change, and then throw it away if it doesn't work. Don't be afraid to let go of things that are not working. Another important thing for the companies that are looking at support, I think, is to reinvest the savings. Way too many times I see the myth of digital transformation to be a way to save money fast. And when that happens, we cut corners. And I've seen a lot of those experiences you were mentioning before, those horrible chatbots that nobody likes, as an example. They are often coming from an attempt to cut cost by 20% in 6 months.
Okay.
Obviously, there are savings, but I think it's more important to reinvest the savings to accelerate digital transformation so that in the longer term, you get bigger and bigger savings, but with an excellent experience. And finally, regardless of the size of your company, I think combining together artificial intelligence and human ingenuity is where you get the best results. So those two things have to go in parallel. One can't replace the other.
So any more tools from the top of your head, if there are any that a startup can use to build great customer experience, or any great resources that you would like them to look at to build their initial customer experience journey?
I mean, there is plenty of resources out there. The design thinking principles now are everywhere. There are seminars, that all the conferences in the industry actually have one sort or another of a design thinking. I think it's important to start from there. But what is even more important is to experiment, to choose a solution, choose a company that can help you through that path, or do it yourself, because there are excellent building blocks available as well. As Azure, as an example, we have our Azure Bot framework. So you can, if you're a developer, you can just build your own solution if you want to. So there are a lot of those solutions out in the market, and I think it's very important to start experimenting. That's a very important thing. Every customer group will react differently, and you will never know until you try. So, design thinking is important, but the practice of the experimentation is what makes the difference.
Sure. And in terms of closing thoughts, where do you see customer experience moving in the next maybe 2, 5, 10 years? What is the direction? Will it be all virtual, all AI based, or how it's going to change over the next few years? What is the direction?
I think we are going to see even more acceleration in the digital transformation journey. We have what we call digital optimism going on now, where companies are recognizing that digital is the path to evolution, and they need to embrace that path. So that will continue. I don't see that trend reversing anytime. I mean, it will continue. We continue to accelerate. I don't think also that there will be a world where we're going to be doing all the experiences digitally. I simply think that, that would be a waste, first of all, because we will lose the opportunity to engage with customers in many meaningful ways. And second, simply don't think the technology will be there in a few years from now. So again, combining the two and choosing where you want to use your people to deliver excellent experience, or when you want to use technology to deliver experience at scale, that is going to be vital to determine success.
But the customer experience is one thing that the company should really look at, because it's going to eventually, on the face of it, it looks like it's going to save cost, but it's actually building your new revenue. So this could be our kind of parting statement.
Definitely.
Okay. So anything else that you would like to add, Jeev? Otherwise, we are at the end of our allocated time, and it was wonderful, really wonderful getting to know your thoughts around it.
Thank you so much for having me.